Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. This is our experimentation, Ecolicious experiment video notes, step 3. So this will be our 4th official video, and hopefully it's just one. We can get all the slides done, and you can move on with your life. But step 3. In step 3 of this experiment, and in step 3 of our video notes here, we're going to work on designing our methods of the experiment. Methods are how we will do and run the experiment, how we'll make the experiment work, how we will design how to measure in our experiment. So what are we going to be measuring and how? Step 3 includes designing how we will water our organism, the plants. And step 3 includes how we will collect information. How will we, once we measure things, how will we write that down or type that? So we'll decide how to type it up too, so we don't lose it and we have it for later, so we can better understand the problem. We want to understand the problem, which is, what's the human impact on our environment in Burbank? Well, we will be able to answer this problem. We'll have a hypothesis or an answer to this problem, this mystery, once we collect data. So once we decide how we're going to get the data or the information, we'll then be able to answer this problem. Okay? Let's begin. First things first, we have already done this. We went to this activity and we decided as a team, each team has decided what they will focus on in their experiment, what they think is a fun or favorite human impact in Burbank. We've all chosen one thing that we think is important that affects Burbank environment. Next, this is what we'll do. The next slides in this video, we're going to try to develop a simple, reliable way to experiment with our Eco Cups. So we have our Eco Cups, we've set them up, we got them ready, but we need to know, what are we going to do with those Eco Cups to answer this problem, right? Once we do these video notes, we will then go to this right here. We will go to Google Classroom after. So after we do all the notes from step 3 here, we will go to Google Classroom, and then we will do this Google Sheet that's really colorful. And we will also use this thing that I'll pass out in class called a paper handout. We will use both of these to create and decide how we will do all of this. So all of these things in step 3, we will put down in this spreadsheet. And you can see we need to know who our team is. We need to know independent variables, dependent variables, the materials we need, how we will measure. That's our data. So how will we collect data? What will we need to build if we need to? And how often will we use or have the independent variable? So these are good questions that we need to know when we're designing our experiment. In class, will hand you this to help you do the spreadsheet, and then we'll get started on the experiment. Once we fill out this on the computer and we fill out the paper handout in class, we'll work together to do our experiment for the next month. All right, here's slide 7. Slide 7 introduces us to different variables. We learned in step 2 that variables are anything that affects or interacts with something, or something that can cause something to happen. These are variables, right? Anything that causes something or has an effect. Anything can be a variable. Turns out there are different types of variables. And in our step 3 video here, we're learning that there's one called the independent variable, one called the dependent variable, and one called the controlled variable. Let's look at the examples. It says, in this example, the independent variable is a weird soda being poured into the pot. That means this plant sometimes receives the independent variable. Interesting. We will, in your teams, choose an independent variable. Now, dependent variable is how tall the plant is. So the independent variable is the soda, and the dependent variable is how the plant grows. So in this experiment, the independent variable, soda, is being studied. These scientists want to know, does soda affect the plant? Does it cause an effect on the plant? So the independent variable is being studied to see, does it affect plant growth? So does the independent, soda, affect the dependent, plant growth? In this example, the independent variable, the soda poured in the cup, and the dependent variable is how tall the plant grows when it gets soda. Does that make sense? I hope so. If not, you can also pause this video and read this definition, read this, and look at the examples one more time, okay? All right, next slide. This is slide 8, and for slide 8, you should pause the video so that you can copy everything in this box, which is the two types of variables, independent and dependent. This is how I explain independent, and this is how I explain dependent. So in your notebook, pause the video, and in your notebook write slide 8, and for slide 8, copy down the definition for independent and dependent. Once you write it, listen up. It says the independent variable is the variable that is adjusted or altered in an experiment to find out its effect on something. So anytime scientists want to see if something has an effect, they call that thing they care about the independent. In the picture, scientists wanted to know if soda has an effect. That's why it's the independent, because the scientists want to know, does it have an effect on plants? And then it says the dependent variable is the result of the independent variable. So the scientists want to know, is soda bad for plants? Well, if soda is the independent variable, the result of the independent variable would be, how does the plant grow? So if you give the plant soda, how does it grow? What is the result of the soda? Is the result of the soda plants growing less or plants growing more? That's the dependent variable. The result of the independent variable. The dependent variable is whatever effect the independent variable has on an object or organism, like a plant. Now, in your notebook, it says, for slide 8, it says, identify the independent and dependent variable in your eco-experiment. This is a good question. What's your independent variable going to be? Let me help you. If you go back here, remember this activity where you decided what your favorite variable was? Your favorite variable that you typed in this blue section here is your independent variable. That's your independent variable. Everyone in class, though, will all have the same dependent variable. Everyone will have the same dependent variable. It's plant growth. So independent variable is what you chose as your favorite here. So in your notebook, you would write independent variable is, or independent variable equals. And then under that, you would write dependent variable is, or dependent variable equals. In all of us, in all of our notebooks, the dependent variable is plants growth. So how plants grow is the dependent variable. All right, here's slide 10. Here are some examples last year of some independent, Here's some examples of some independent variables. Pollution, like cleaners, house cleaners, the things we use to clean the home, chemicals. Car fluids like oil, transmission fluid, things like this. Another pollution could be beauty supplies, cologne, makeup, toothpaste, so chemical pollutions. Another example of an independent variable could be abuse, where people in our town maybe abuse plants or step on them all the time. Is it bad if humans are stepping on plants in nature? So that could be the abuse, could be independent variable. Litter. Is litter bad for plants? So litter could be an independent variable. Recycled water, so dirty water. Could dirty water, like toilet water, be bad for plants? In this example, recycled water is the independent variable, the water we use and flush. Okay, so this is slide 11. In your notebook, please write slide 11. And then, after you write slide 11 in your notebook, please do this. Please get this box, this table, we call it a table. Please write this down in your notebook, copy this down. So pause and copy this down and write what it has inside. And then I'll help you fill this in after, okay? So pause the video and create this whole table with everything written inside like you see, okay? Next, it says, what variables in our experiment are kept the same? So that's the eco cups. We have to decide, in what ways are every team's eco cups the same? Here's an example. Same cups used. What else? Everybody in our experiment is using same soil. We're all using the same, same seeds. We're all using the same measurements. Can you think of any more? We're all using the same amount of water, maybe. Same amount of light, maybe, right? These are variables that we keep the same between all teams. But what's not the same? The variables not kept the same are your special variable. What you would write here is your independent variable. So what's your team's independent variable, okay? If you want to remember your independent variable, go back to slide 8 where you wrote what your independent variable was. And then come back here and then put it inside this box here. Easy, right? Remember, your independent variable is what you want to test. That's your special variable that you want to see how it affects the organisms in your cup. And here's some examples here. Maybe you're doing pollution, abuse, litter, or dirty water. Good luck. Make sure you fill this in and make sure for your team you put our teams. I'm going to put I for independent variable, IV for independent variable. Our team's IV is blank. And that's the one you're not going to keep the same. That's the one that is different for different teams because each team has their own independent variable. All right, please write slide 12 in your notebook and then copy down this definition and then pause the video. All right, now that you've copied down the definition here in your notebook and you've wrote slide 12, please create this table. Do it very simply. Make another table here. So pause the video to get this down. Now that you have done this in your notebook, variables kept the same. We call it controlled, okay? So what are the variables that we control? It's like this table here. We say we controlled all these variables. Because these variables are all the same for everyone. If we all do all of these the same, then we say that we controlled the variable. We kept it the same for everybody's teams, for everybody's eco cups. Those are controlled. Now, if any team has something different, these are the independent variables, okay? Good. Let's move on to slide 13. All right, in your notebook, write slide 13, and then pause the video and get the definitions for experimental group and control group. So in your notebook, write slide 13 and copy down these two vocab. So in this example, the experimental group contains an independent variable. In this example in the picture, it's the soda. So it's the cup with a plant that gets soda, which is the weird thing, right? And then in this example, the control group doesn't get the independent variable. The control group is the group that just has a normal situation like water here. For yourself, decide which cup is your experimental group And which cup is your control group?